My ex wanted coffee with Jason and told me. "You're not invited." I calmly said understood, and she left. While she was gone, I got the ring deposit back and packed everything. When she returned, I should probably explain how we got to that moment, because looking back, the signs were always there. I just chose to ignore them until that Saturday morning, when everything crystallized with brutal clarity. Chloe and I had been together for 3 years, living together for 2. I'm a senior financial analyst at a mid-tier investment firm, pulling in $95,000 annually. Not spectacular money, but comfortable. Chloe worked in marketing for a tech startup, making about $52,000. The income difference had never been an issue, or so I thought. I covered 70% of our $2,400 monthly rent, plus most utilities, because I could afford it and wanted us both to be comfortable. That Saturday started like any other weekend morning. I was sitting in our living room, coffee in hand, reviewing some market reports on my laptop, when I noticed Chloe getting dressed with unusual care. Not her typical weekend attire of leggings and one of my old college sweatshirts. She was wearing a fitted black dress I'd bought her for her birthday, complete with the jewelry I'd given her for Christmas. Her makeup was magazine perfect. "You look incredible," I said, genuinely meaning it. "Where are we going?" She paused at the mirror, adjusting an earring. "Actually, I'm meeting Jason for coffee. He's in town for the weekend." Jason, her ex-boyfriend from college. The trust fund kid who'd treated her like an accessory before dumping her for someone with better family connections. The same Jason she'd spent hours telling me was manipulative, shallow, and emotionally unavailable. "Oh," I said carefully. "Should I change? What time are we meeting him?" That's when she turned around, and I saw something in her expression I'd never seen before. Not guilt, not apology, but something closer to superiority. Like she was about to deliver news that would put me in my place. "We're just going to catch up," she said coolly. "You're not invited." The words hit me like a physical blow. Not, "I'd prefer to go alone," or, "Would you mind if I went solo?" Just a flat, dismissive declaration that I was excluded from her life. In that moment, I understood exactly where I stood in her hierarchy of relationships. But here's what Chloe didn't know about me. She never bothered to understand the strategic side of my personality. In my job, I analyze risk, identify patterns, and make calculated decisions under pressure. I don't react emotionally to market volatility, and I wasn't about to start now. I reached into my jacket pocket and felt the receipt from Goldstein and Associates Jewelers. $8,400 for a custom engagement ring with a 1.2 carat center stone. I'd been carrying it around for 2 days, planning to surprise her that evening with dinner and a proposal. The deposit alone had been $3,500, representing 3 months of careful saving and overtime work. In that instant, everything became clear. This wasn't about coffee. This was about power, hierarchy, and where I fit in her world. And apparently, I didn't. "Understood," I said simply. She looked almost disappointed, as if she'd been expecting a fight that would justify her behavior. Instead, she grabbed her purse and walked out, leaving me alone in our apartment with the sound of her heels clicking down the hallway. The moment the door closed, I moved into action. This wasn't emotional devastation, though that would come later. This was strategic assessment and immediate damage control. First call, Goldstein and Associates. "Good morning, this is Mark Stevens. I have an order scheduled for pickup today. Confirmation number GAS 447-1. I need to cancel the order and receive a full refund." The silence on the other end stretched for several seconds. "Sir, the ring is actually ready for pickup. Are you certain about canceling?" "The engagement is off. Process the refund to my original payment method." "Of course, sir. I'll handle that immediately. The refund should appear in 3 to 5 business days." Second action, systematic extraction. I pulled my largest suitcase from the bedroom closet along with the moving boxes I'd kept from my previous apartment. I had learned early in my career that preparation prevents panic, and that principle applied here. I packed methodically, taking only what was unquestionably mine: my clothes, my books, my laptop, and work materials, the expensive sound system I'd bought before we moved in together. I left everything we'd purchased as a couple: the sectional sofa, the dining room set, the kitchen appliances we'd researched together. Those items belonged to a relationship that had just ended. The physical act of packing was strangely calming. Each item placed in a box was weight lifted from my shoulders. I wasn't just leaving an apartment. I was extracting myself from a situation where I'd become financially and emotionally overinvested in someone who saw me as optional. By the time I finished, my car was packed with 3 years of my life condensed into manageable containers. I'd been methodical enough to include all my important documents, my passport, even my good winter coat. This wasn't a dramatic gesture, it was a complete operational withdrawal. I sat in the driver's seat for a moment before starting the engine, scrolling through my phone to her contact. The photo was from last spring when we'd gone hiking, her laughing at something I'd said, looking genuinely happy. I stared at it for exactly 10 seconds, then blocked her number, blocked her on social media, and deleted her contact information entirely. Then I drove to the Marriott downtown and checked into a suite for the week. I spent that evening at my laptop, not brooding, but planning. My lease obligations, my financial exposure to our shared accounts, my timeline for finding a new apartment. I also drafted an email to my financial advisor about adjusting my saving strategy now that I was planning for one person instead of two. Around 7 p.m., my phone started ringing from unknown numbers. I didn't answer. Then the texts started coming from numbers I didn't recognize, clearly from Chloe using her friends' phones. I read them for intelligence gathering purposes, then deleted them without responding. The pattern was predictable: confusion, then anger, then bargaining, then threats. Classic negotiation tactics, except she had no leverage and didn't realize it yet. What she also didn't realize was that during our 3 years together, I'd been paying attention to her patterns, her insecurities, and her dependencies. She'd become comfortable with our financial arrangement, where I covered the majority of our living expenses. Her startup salary barely covered her car payment, student loans, and personal expenses. Without my contribution, she couldn't afford to stay in our apartment alone. Monday morning, I started apartment hunting in earnest. My budget was now $3,200 per month instead of the $1,680 I'd been paying as my share of our place. I could afford a much better location, possibly even a building with better amenities. I also made an appointment with my lawyer, David Reyes, who handles my financial planning and contract reviews. I wanted to understand my legal obligations regarding our lease and any shared financial arrangements. The good news, David told me during our Tuesday meeting, is that you're not married, so there's no complex asset division. The lease is joint, but if she can't make the payments, the landlord will work with you on termination rather than face eviction proceedings. Your shared credit card shows her as an authorized user, not a joint account holder, so you can cancel that immediately. What about the security deposit on our apartment? You have records showing you paid the full deposit yourself. If she stays and damages the apartment, or if she abandons it and forces lease termination, you can recover that money. That same day, I found a one-bedroom apartment in a much better neighborhood, 15 minutes closer to my office with a gym and roof deck. The building was newer, the finishes were better, and the rent was exactly what I'd been paying for my share of the place with Chloe. By Wednesday, I'd signed a lease starting the following Monday, arranged for movers, and set up all new utilities. I was systematically building a completely new life while she was still sending increasingly desperate messages through mutual friends. The breakthrough came Thursday evening. I was at my new apartment, directing furniture delivery, when my phone rang. Lisa Brooks, one of our mutual friends who'd stayed neutral through the drama. "Mark, I think you should know what's really happening," she said. "Chloe's been telling everyone that you guys had a fight about her having male friends, and she's painting you as controlling and possessive." "What's your read on the situation?" I asked. "I was at drinks with her last night. She's panicking because she can't afford the apartment alone, and Jason completely ghosted her after their coffee date. Apparently, he was just in town looking to hook up with ex-girlfriends, and when she told him she was in a serious relationship, he lost interest immediately. So she blew up a 3-year relationship for a guy who didn't even want to sleep with her? Gets worse. She found out you canceled an engagement ring. She went to the jewelry store trying to see if you'd actually been planning to propose. When they confirmed you'd gotten an $8,400 refund, she completely lost it. That detail satisfied me in a way that surprised me. The financial impact was real and quantified. She'd cost herself not just a relationship, but an $8,400 ring and the security of a 2-income household. "She's been calling our old landlord begging for lease modifications," Lisa continued, but she needs to find a roommate or move out by the end of the month. She's also been calling you obsessively, but obviously you're not answering. I blocked her completely, I confirmed. Smart move. She's spiraling pretty hard, asking everyone if they know how to reach you. I think she's finally understanding what she gave up. The following Saturday, exactly 1 week after Coffeegate, I was moving the last of my belongings into my new apartment when I saw a familiar car in the parking garage. Chloe, looking exhausted and desperate, sitting in her Honda Civic with the engine running. She got out when she saw me, and I could immediately tell the week had been brutal for her. She looked like she'd lost weight. Her usually perfect appearance was disheveled, and her confidence had evaporated entirely. "Mark, please, can we just talk for 5 minutes?" I continued unloading boxes from my car, not acknowledging her directly, but not walking away either. "I made a huge mistake," she continued, her voice cracking. "The thing with Jason was stupid and meaningless. He's exactly the same selfish asshole he always was. I don't know what I was thinking." I set down the box I was carrying and looked at her directly for the first time. "You were thinking that you wanted to explore your options with someone you considered an upgrade. You found out he wasn't interested in anything serious, so now I'm the backup plan." "That's not true." "Chloe, I'm a financial analyst. I understand market dynamics. When assets perform poorly, you divest. You tried to diversify your relationship portfolio. It didn't work out. And now you want to reestablish your position in a market you'd already exited." She stared at me for a moment, unsure how to respond to the clinical analysis. "I love you," she said finally, which was the first time she'd said those words in months. 3 weeks ago, maybe that would have mattered," I replied, "but you taught me something valuable about how you assess worth and loyalty. I learned the lesson." "So what? You're just going to throw away 3 years because of one stupid afternoon?" "I'm not throwing anything away. You did that when you decided I wasn't worthy of basic respect or inclusion in your social plans. You made a strategic choice about how much I mattered in your life. I'm just aligning my investment with your stated valuation." I picked up my box and started walking toward my building entrance. She followed, becoming more desperate. "I can't afford the apartment without you. I'll have to move back in with my parents." "That sounds like a personal financial planning issue," I said, swiping my keycard to enter the building. "Please, Mark. I'm sorry. I was wrong. Can't we work through this?" I turned around one final time. "Here's the thing about trust in financial markets, Chloe. Once you demonstrate unreliability, the risk assessment changes permanently. I don't invest in volatile assets." The elevator doors closed with her standing in the lobby, finally understanding that her actions had consequences she couldn't negotiate away. 2 months later, I ran into Lisa at a coffee shop downtown. She updated me on the aftermath without my even asking. "Chloe had to break the lease and move back home," she told me. "She's been applying for roommate situations, but her salary is limiting her options pretty severely. She's also been asking mutual friends if you're dating anyone yet." "And Jason?" "Never contacted her again. Turns out he's engaged to someone he met in graduate school and was just looking to cheat on his fiancée during his business trip. Real charming guy." I felt no satisfaction in her struggles, but I also felt no guilt about my choices. She'd made a calculated decision to prioritize a former relationship over our current one, and the market had responded accordingly. "She keeps saying she didn't realize how good she had it with you," Lisa continued. "Financial security teaches you to appreciate stability," I replied. Unfortunately, she learned that lesson after the market had already corrected. The truth was, my life had improved dramatically. My new apartment was better in every way. I was saving money for the first time in 2 years, since I wasn't subsidizing someone else's lifestyle. I'd started dating casually, and remembered what it felt like to be with someone who was genuinely excited to spend time with me. 6 months later, I was promoted to senior analyst with a $15,000 salary increase. I celebrated by buying myself a better car and planning a solo vacation to Europe. Everything about my life was more intentional, more deliberate, and more aligned with my actual values. I never saw Chloe again, though I heard through the extended social network that she eventually found a roommate situation in a less desirable neighborhood and was still struggling to rebuild her social life after the Jason humiliation became widely known. The engagement ring money had gone into an investment account that performed exceptionally well that year. By December, it had grown to almost $11,000. Sometimes the best return on investment comes from knowing when not to invest at all.